In a police officer's mind, a traffic stop can be more deadly than any other law enforcement encounter. More police officers are killed every year while conducting traffic stops than during any other police functions.
When you're stopped by a police officer, I think as a motorist we should keep in mind that safety is probably first in that officer's mind, and certainly should be first in your mind. We often encourage people to keep their hands in a 10-2 position and give the officer your full undivided attention. The goal there, of course, is to not give him any reason to be uncomfortable, and you do that by following his instructions. Sometimes people get confused and they don't treat those instructions like commands, but technically they are commands.
When you see blue lights flashing in your rearview mirror, first thing you need to do is find a safe place to pull off the roadway, preferably to the right side of the roadway if at all possible. A safe place would be a driveway, a business, or just the shoulder of the road if that's all you have. After you're pulled over, as the officer approaches your vehicle, you should turn your car off, roll down your driver's window, and turn your radio down, and stop all phone conversations if you're on the telephone at that time. As the officer approaches your vehicle, make sure you keep your hands in plain sight. Normally, the best place to put your hands is on the steering wheel. Wait to make any movements until the officer gets up to the vehicle and asks you for your license and registration. At that time, then attempt to retrieve whatever it is he's asking you for.
The advice I give new drivers would be you're responsible for the motor vehicle you're driving. The registration, the insurance, lights working properly, that's your responsibility. So if you get on the wheel of a car, if a police officer stops you, you're subject to get a citation for any infractions or any violations that may be related to that vehicle. The other thing I'll tell young drivers is that you're responsible for the people and the contents of the vehicle you're driving. So again, you don't want to pick up people and give them rides that you are not familiar with. If that person happens to be wanted or has some drugs on him or some other evidence of some crime, then you could find yourself being involved in some illegal activity simply because you're riding that person in your car.
After the initial stop has taken place, you've pulled over on the side of the road and you're waiting for the officer to approach your vehicle. The officer may be in his vehicle running your license plate and checking out to see who's in the vehicle, who's not in the vehicle. And above all, we have to call in all our traffic stops to our dispatch center. So it's a good possibility that's what they're doing. It may take a few seconds or a minute or two for him to actually approach your vehicle. Always stay in your car and wait till the officer approaches you. Never get out of your vehicle and attempt to approach the officer. Again, this is one of the most dangerous things we do. We don't know you, you don't know us. We don't know what to expect when you get out of the car. So just stay in the car, keep your hands where we can see them.
I think it's imperative that when you're pulled over, if you have legal weapons in your car, you should immediately bring that to the officer's attention. Most police officers would greatly appreciate knowing if you have a legal weapon in your vehicle, and of course that weapon should be in plain view. But if by chance that officer might not see it immediately when he walks up to your vehicle, you should make him aware of it, of course with your hands in a 10-2 position. And of course, if the person doesn't have a driver's license, I think they should go ahead and let the officer know that they don't have a driver's license. Obviously, they need to have some identification, because if you don't have any identification at all, you might expect that an officer will need to carry you downtown to verify that you're not someone who may just have committed a crime and may be at large.
At the conclusion of your traffic stop, if you are issued a state citation, the officer is going to explain to you your options, whether you need to go to court, whether you can pay the citation off. At that time, if you do have questions, feel free to ask the officer any questions that you have about the state citation. However, at that point, it's not the time to argue the point that you are not guilty or you are guilty or whatever the fact may be. The officer will explain to you your court date, and you will have your time in court to explain to the judge your side of the story.
The side of the road is not the time to express your knowledge of the Constitution. It's your time to try to comply with whatever the officer is requesting. It's just important to recognize that at that moment when you're being stopped, complying with the officer's requests is most important. If you have some issue that you feel needs to be addressed afterwards, then contacting a supervisor or the desk sergeant those are always options that are right there for you. And the fact that you respected the officer's authority at that moment really helps your case later should you have some issue that you want to bring forth to a supervisor.
If a driver has a concern regarding a traffic stop involving a Fayetteville police officer, they should call the department right away so their concerns can be addressed immediately. All traffic stops are time and date stamped in our computer-aided dispatch system, and officers have in-car cameras, and those cameras, video and audio, can be reviewed. Addressing complaints as quickly as possible can help us provide better information to the concerned citizen and help us work through that process. Complaints can be filed online via our website, www.bethebadge.com. They can be filed at the police department, or they can be filed by phone by calling 433-1820. When a citizen files a complaint, we have a process that requires the supervisor investigating the complaint to contact the citizen, and at the conclusion of the complaint, the citizen will either receive feedback by phone or by letter.
I would expect for the law enforcement officer to show the motorist the same level of respect and courtesy that he expects of the person he's stopping. Recognizing that if you display good character, if you show respect, and if you conduct yourself in using your best possible behavior and attitude, that stop is going to be more pleasant. I find, and I've been practicing law for 20 years, there are people who are regularly in touch with the court system, but they know how to conduct themselves when they're facing authority. And those people, in spite of what their ultimate charges may be, their experience with law enforcement officers are much better.
When you are pulled over, if you've never been pulled over before, everybody knows we're nervous. So when the officer approaches your window, just remain calm. The officer's going to articulate to you why he stopped you and what the process is from that point. If you have questions, the officer won't have any problem answering your questions. Just keep in mind foremost that the officer has a job to do. He's pulled you over for some reason. And like I said before, he's going to articulate what that reason is. But above all, we're just out there trying to keep the roadways safe. And traffic stops are the way we go about doing that.